is going on, everyone? Matthias here, Performance Fitness, and I want to address this question right here, which was asked in one of my programming videos from a couple of weeks ago. So basically, the question was regarding how I actually plan a week when it comes to power building. Okay, so mixing some sort of powerlifting goal with some bodybuilding goal. Okay, so getting good at the powerlifts, but also getting like more hypertrophy. Alright, so thank you for Handsome22, I think it was her name, that you asked the question to my video. So yeah, basically I want to start off by taking into account three main principles which I take into account when it comes to programming, okay? And first off, this is going to be very different for every individual, okay? But these are basically 3 points that I like to take into account when I am programming some sort of microcycle, which is what you call a week of training, okay? So first off, it's going to be specificity of training. Second, it's going to be managing acute fatigue. And third, it's going to be managing frequency of the lifts, okay? So first off, specificity of training, okay? So if you want to get better at powerlifting, which is going to be the area of focus, you have two areas of focus, okay? You have powerlifting and bodybuilding, okay? So some sort of muscle building goal, okay? It doesn't mean that you're going to be doing a bodybuilding show. You might want to, but I don't recommend that. However, what you're going to be doing is starting off with the powerlifts first, okay? So every day you're going to the gym, you're going to be doing some sort of bench press or squats or deadlifts or maybe 2 or 3 of every lifts, okay? You're not going to be starting with bicep curls, you're not going to be starting with calf raises, with some sort of crazy ab routine, some sort of pull-ups, stuff like that. That is not going to be the main goal when it comes to starting off your workout, okay? Because you're going to be fresher as soon as you start your workouts, okay? So any of those 3 lists, depending on how you actually structure your program, which I'm going to be talking about that later on in the video, so stay tuned. You're going to be starting off with some of these 3 lifts at the start of your workout, okay? Because they are going to be helping you both with powerlifting goals and also with bodybuilding goals, okay? Because the stronger you get at some sort of a big compound movements, which is some sort of those 3 movements, you're going to be inducing more mechanical tension, more progressive oils into the muscle, and that's going to be making your muscle grow, as well as adding some more volume for that bodybuilding goal, okay? So that's going to be specificity of training, okay? So doing actually those 3 lifts and doing them at the start of your workout, so you're going to be fresher and going to be exert more force into those lifts, okay? And also, I don't recommend at all training into the 10 to 12 rep range when it comes to squatting, deadlifting, maybe bench pressing, but still I don't recommend that. Why? Because those 3 lifts are going to be quite technical, especially when you're doing them for powerlifting goals, okay? So if you're doing squats, deadlifts for bodybuilding goals, you might want to go higher into that rep range, which still I don't recommend because those lifts are quite technical, okay? So it's very likely they're going to be having some sort of technical breakdown when you're going over 7, 8, 9 reps. You're going to be having some sort of technical breakdown, and that is not good for the sports, okay? When it comes to powerlifting, weightlifting, those technical sports, we want quality over quantity, okay? So if you want to get more volume through those lifts, I would recommend either increasing the sets, so you can do, maybe if you want more sets, instead of doing higher reps, you can do higher sets, and this is going to increase the overall volume, and also doing higher frequency, okay? And also variation, and this is going to aid you in increasing volume. Second point is going to be acute fatigue, okay? So when it comes to acute fatigue, what I mean by this is not having, like, maybe you have 3 heavy days and 2 lighter days, like more hypertrophy days. I wouldn't recommend to have the 3 heavier days back to back when it comes to the microcycle, because this is not going to optimize the recovery, okay? So if you bang your central nervous system every day, at some point it's going to give out, okay? So if you have some sort of heavier days, I would recommend that to be split up into the week, or at most have 2 of the heavier days back to back, okay? Not more than 3, because that is going to somewhat impair your ability to recover when it comes to your central nervous system. Of course you're going to be, because I know I'm going to be getting some sort of question, or maybe not, because nobody actually comments on my videos, but however, like, maybe someone's going to be thinking that you are either way going to adapt like that, because maybe some sort of like programs like Bulgarian style training where you're doing heavy sets every day, you actually adapt to the kind of system, and that is true, you actually adapt. But if you're having some sort of like maybe upwards of 3 heavy days in the week, which I know to be recommending much more than that when it comes to this style of goal with power building, you are going to be much better off splitting those days up. and maybe having at most 2 days back to back. And the third one was frequency, okay? So frequency is going to be a huge factor when it comes to improving your strength, okay? And improving your strength is going to also carry over into improving your muscle mass, okay? So I would recommend to have at least 2 to 3 times a week of squatting, maybe upwards of 4 or 5 times you can actually do that. And I would recommend to have at least some sort of 3 to 5 days a week of benching, okay? 2 days of benching is not going to be enough if you're going to be trying to maximize your powerlifting goals. And when it comes to deadlifting, I would recommend maybe 1 to 2 days of competition deadlifts. And if you're maybe pulling sumo, you can get away with a little bit more than this. And especially if you're like a very short individual where your bar path is not too much, as opposed to my deadlift, which the actual work that goes into my deadlift, because I am very tall, it's a lot more than someone that maybe pulls sumo and is very short and have long arms and maybe the range of motion is very short. So that individual is going to actually be able to handle a little bit more volume and frequency when it comes to the deadlift. For most individuals, I would recommend one heavy day of deadlift and another variation day of deadlift, some sort of pause deadlift, deficit deadlift, block pull, something like that, which is going to maybe not fatigue you as much as the competition lifts, and you're going to work on some sort of difficulty, some sort of lagging area that you have in your deadlift, okay? So I'm going to be showing you in this Excel sheet right now what some sort of week of programming for Powerbuilding is going to be looking like. This is actually one of the weeks of one of my athletes that I'm training right now, which he's preparing for a powerlifting meet, but he's also like to train for bodybuilding and aesthetics. So this routine is going to be matching both of the goals, and you can see that the first week is going to be laid down with the first heavy day on Monday, which is going to be a heavy bench day, which he's working to a top set of heavy rep, and then doing some backup volume. And this is actually then carry on with some overhead pressing, some chin-ups, some rowing, some biceps, triceps, which is also like sets up some sort of like an upper lower day. So it's going to be the upper day with the focus on intensity, okay? The second day is going to be a lower body day focused around squats, okay? So it's going to be some sort of heavy day, but the squats are going to be the main focus here, which he's going to be working up to a heavy set, again in the squats, then doing some backup volume, and then going on into some pause deadlifts, which he has some trouble with positioning in the deadlift, so some sort of pause deadlifts is going to be very beneficial for him. And then carry on over to some accessory leg work, which this is going to be increasing the overall volume, as I was saying previously, okay? So if you want to increase overall volume, you can do it by increasing the sets of the given movement. So if you want to increase overall volume of squats, you can do it through increasing overall squat sets, overall squats frequency, which this kind of programming I'm showing you right now is 2 times a week only, because he wants to focus on upper body. Or you can even increase it through variation, okay, as I'm showing you right here. Third day is going to be focused around hypertrophy, but more of a quote-unquote heavy hypertrophy day, okay, because he's going to be working up to a heavy set of 3 or 4, I forgot the program right now, on the bench press, then going on into some backup volume, and then the following exercises and rep ranges are going to be quite high when it comes to the rep ranges, but it's not going to be as light as you're going to be seeing the 5th day, okay? And this is going to be because of acute fatigue. And the next day is going to be a rest day, then follow up with Friday, which is going to be some sort of it's going to be a heavy deadlift day, okay? So as I said previously, I don't recommend much more than one heavy deadlift day, okay? The first leg day was a lower body day, was a variation, which was a light deadlift day. This is going to be focused around the heavy deadlifts, okay? So again, a top set of heavy 1 to 2 reps, and then some backup volume. Then we're going to be carrying on over with competition squats, and then some more accessory leg work, which is going to be focusing on around his weaknesses, like a Romanian deadlift, because he has some issues with the lower back and stuff like that. Some sort of kettlebell squats, because he has some issues with mobility, and then some kind of core work, okay? And the 5th day is going to be some sort of an upper body day, hypertrophy again. When I say hypertrophy, I mean higher reps and not lower reps, no intensity strength day, because both rep ranges are going to build muscle mass. If you don't have much more of an idea about that, check out this video right here. And this day is going to be focused around hypertrophy, but as you can see, as opposed to the third day, it's going to be much more of a lighter day, much more focused on isolation work, much more focused around light stuff. because I want to manage acute fatigue for him to be as fresh as he possibly can on Monday, because he's going to be having the heavy bench day, okay? And further up into the routine, because this is going to be, the routine was divided into 1 to 3 weeks. This was the same structure, and for the next 3 to 6 weeks we are in another day of squatting into the routine. And on that Saturday, on the 5th day, because they're going to be adding a little bit more volume when it comes to the squats, a little bit more frequency, but you can see that the actual intensity, relative intensity of the day, so the RPE is going to be relatively low, okay? And this is going to allow him to get a little more frequency, get a little more intensity into the routine, but the relative intensity is low, so then he can have a decent rest time for then hitting the actual heavy day on Monday when it comes to the benching, okay? So this is some sort of example when it comes to programming for an upper-lower routine of a power building style of training, okay? So we have benching 3 times a week, 1 close grip bench press to focus a little bit on tricep strength, and 2 competition, which the close grip is again with a pause, and 2 competition style bench presses, 2 days of squatting, which is then turned into 3 days of squatting because of the increased frequency in the routine, and 2 days of deadlifting, 1 heavy competition style deadlift and a pause deadlift, okay, a variation. And this is not the only way, of course, of organizing this. There are a multitude of factors. Maybe the athlete wants to focus a little bit more on the lower body and likes to train more lower body and focus on squats and deadlifts, and maybe the squats can be bumped up into like 4 days a week of squatting and a couple of days of deadlifting, maybe 3 days of benching, or maybe you want to organize it into push-pull because you want to focus on different things. So maybe you start off with squats and bench in 1 day, then do some sort of pushing accessories, so some sort of leg work and some sort of shoulder work, maybe some more isolation for the triceps, chest if you want to do that, and then follow up the next day with a pull day, which is going to be focused of course on deadlifts, then maybe some sort of rowing, some sort of pull up, and some sort of biceps if you want to do that, and maybe some sort of Romanian deadlift if you want to add a little more volume into that posterior chain to strengthen that with some sort of increased volume, but not so much fatigue that is going to inhibit you from performing into the squats and bench press. And that you can actually manage that push-pull into push-pull heavy, push-pull lights, and maybe push-pull accessory or more hypertrophy style, and lower like exertion, okay, so not too heavy. So yeah, that's going to be more or less how I actually manage a power building routine. If you have any sort of question, be sure to leave it in the comment section down below. I'm going to address it for sure. And if you have some sort of question for me to make another video on it, like I actually like to pick some sort of your questions to make my future videos on that. So if you have some sort of question, leave it down there. I'm going to address it in a future video if it's a good enough question. So yeah, I'm going to be seeing you all in the next video. Be sure to subscribe to the video, like, and yeah, thanks for watching.